Hey, what's up, you guys? And of course, welcome to another Alternative Factuals video. And today I'm going to be talking about Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, even though I've always been caught up with the TV show, for some reason I've never really talked about it on the channel. I actually don't see too many people talking about it, to be quite honest with you. Not as many channels as I thought that would be. But let me join that group of people who are talking about it, and we're going to talk about season 6 and kind of the main protagonist, Izel. But before I dive into anything related to her or season 6, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'll leave your comments down below. This channel is all based on your theories. I want to know your theories. Tell me what's on your mind. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you agree. Tell me if you disagree. It's okay to have an opinion because my channel is opinion based. Almost none of which I say is, fact. Some cases it might be if I'm reading something directly off of, one of the TV show websites, or just if I have a source for it directly, then at that point it's a fact. But overall, in general, a lot of this stuff is just me throwing out predictions, and sometimes, I can be right actually, then sometimes I could be wrong, or sometimes I could be half right and half wrong. So this is a theory-based channel. And without further ado, let's kind of dive into today's video. All right, so beautiful people, let's talk about Izel from Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 6. Now, for those of you who don't really know too much about her, or maybe you're just watching the show passively and you don't really dive too deep into things and think about things like I do. I usually stay up at night overthinking a lot of things. Izel is an ancient entity and the creator of the shrike. Now remember, the shrike are those parasitic little creatures that have been possessing people and taking them over, and then at some point they combine as a group, and then they form into this crystallized form which attracts her to a particular planet. During her mission, basically she's trying to find the monolith. She's been around for thousands of years, and her goal is to find the monolith. Now, she started to recruit people because the Coulson clone, basically Sarge at this point, he is one of the reasons why she cannot maintain a crew. He kills them, but he can never quite catch her. And there's a theory out there that's very interesting that I kind of want to address. Now, I'm going to dive a little bit into Sarge simply because it kind of carries over into what I'm trying to explain about where Izel possibly might come from, or where Coulson or Sarge might come from. But in this season, Sarge, or Coulson the clone, or whatever you want to call him, genetically he is identical to the original Phil Coulson that we see in the previous seasons, but he is absolutely nothing like him when it comes to personality. This particular Coulson, at least genetically speaking, is exactly like him, but personality, he's a lot more ruthless, he's a lot more brutal, and he is definitely way more willing to sacrifice in order to defeat Izel. So this is where I kind of dive into what I want to talk about. So people speculate that he and Izel might originate from a realm or a pocket dimension where fear and darkness is the primary function of that particular place in this, area in the universe. And that it's not something completely out of the realm of possibilities. Remember, in the episode Collision Course Part 2, they actually showed what happens when the monoliths kind of, linger in one area for extended periods of time, but also just in general, one in particular actually opened up a rift into space and then opened a dimension to the fear dimension. Now remember, by definition, according to the show and what we've gathered, the fear dimension is a dimension in the multiverse which manifests fears in those exposed to it. So after a rift in space has occurred at the lighthouse during that episode, the fear dimension spawned illusions that haunted, various different people throughout the whole course of that. I think it was a two-parter basically. And eventually, they closed it with gravitonium. That was the whole thing where they introduced graviton and blah, 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 blah. So what does this mean for Izel? Now, this could possibly also mean that Izel could be someone who existed in this fear dimension as a very powerful entity. She's able to spawn these shrike, these parasitic creatures. She's able to do this at will, and she's able to use them to manipulate massive amounts of people. Now, she could have came from this dimension after she completely ravaged her dimension, meaning, you know, because Coulson wants to kill her. Basically everyone he brought over from that dimension, where jumping from earth to earth chasing her, he definitely wants to take her out for sure. And they all have valid reasons, most of them having to do with the fact that they took out his family, and even the big dude who's able to breathe fire, you know, Izel took out his family as well for the very similar reason. So he's been amassing people as he's been jumping from earth to earth after possibly entering this dimension along with Izel. Now, to kind of describe what possibly the fear dimension could be, because according to the show we haven't quite got much detail outside of the fact that it can manifest illusionary purposes. The fear dimension itself can very much probably, you know, have some sort of life in it. A lot of things you will figure out in Marvel Comics in general is just simply the fact that just because a dimension may be all about fear and darkness does not mean it's completely unhospitable to creatures that are able to survive there, or maybe just corrupted mirror versions of other personalities. Now, Coulson has presumably been through enough pain already through his entire life to satisfy multiple human beings on the planet Earth. However, throughout the course of these events, he has never been the type to, hey, I'm willing to sacrifice any and everybody in order to achieve my goal. Now, this Coulson has experienced love, but then after experiencing one type of loss, he was completely willing to throw any and everybody away just to kill her, which in a lot of ways is a complete opposite of what Coulson really represented in the TV show. Now, ultimately, this would just simply mean that Izel is not necessarily a bad guy, so to speak, but she just wants to get home, which, you know, very much is, you know, a possibility. This could just be the nature of who she is, where she goes somewhere, she has to infect people, and she has to feed on people, or whatever the case may be due to her genetic makeup, or, you know, whatever drives her to do what she does. Ultimately, I feel like she's just trying to get home. She did mention that the monoliths were stolen from her thousands of years ago, which is the reason why she even ended up in this dimension in the first place. So in reality, who's to say? You know, she can probably be the original owner, or probably the one who created the monolith, and then somebody was able to tap into her dimension, or somehow someone got a hold of it and she came over here chasing after them. And because the monoliths throughout the course of time have always been split up throughout all space, eventually she made her way to Earth just simply because she's drawn to them, or she's been trying to find them and then has been just simply following the clues to do so. So it's very interesting to see that, you know, the development of her character and the reason why she goes about the things that she does. So in reality, she might not be the bad guy we think she is, but just due to the nature of how her abilities work and what she's able to do, it seems like she has to kind of be the protagonist just due simply by nature. But I want you guys to tell me what you think about this theory. Do you think that Izel possibly could be coming from the fear dimension? Because that, in terms of dimension wise, this is one of the few dimensions that we've seen having to do with the whole darkness and fear aspect, where there are other dimensions out there that have to do with darkness, which is basically where the Darkhold came from, where Ghost Rider was able to go into this dimension and then he got stuck there temporarily and then he was able to escape, as well as the simple fact that there are just simply other dimensions out there that probably they haven't introduced as of yet, but probably will in the future of this season or next season, or so on and so forth. So you let me know what you think about this theory. Do you think specifically she came from the fear dimension, since we already have an introduction to that specific dimension just in general, or do you feel like she's going to come from somewhere else? Let me know what you think. Also, it would be interesting too if they did come from the dimension in which the Darkhold gave you access to. That would be a very cool thing as well, because then that'll be a consistent dimension that keeps carrying over from several seasons. Honestly, I think the season I had Ghost Rider was like one of the best seasons, simply because it was a combination of like magic as well as science, where they were able to do a lot of things, and it kind of filled in a gray area that I've always wanted to see on TV, and I think it was executed pretty well. Like I said, the combination of magic and science is always pretty well. What you call it, techno sorcery, basically, that's what some people will call it, but very interesting. But let me know what you think. Let me know your theories down below, and if you're new to the channel, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you're thinking, feeling, your theories, everything related to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you know, season 6, whatever you're thinking, let me know in the comments down below, and I hope to see you later on. Peace out.